Yes, we're out.
Thank you. Mr. Pettit is on a prearranged vacation before he was actually hired last year, so that's not why he's not with us this evening. We'll be moving down to the approval of the consent agenda, the minutes of the June 13th, 2023 regular board meeting, June bills totaling $191,120.99, and the financial reports contained therein.
I'll make a motion for the approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there additional questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Next, I'm looking to adopt the agenda for the remainder of the meeting as printed with no additions or corrections.
So moved.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded as well. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? Or nay? Thank you. Next, we have public comments. I will wait a few seconds and allow anyone that wants to approach. Seeing no movement or having no other comments that were sent to us, I will ask Mr. Rinke to give his Assistant Superintendent report, which will be followed by Raymond James.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So I have quite a bit of information to cover today on some of the agenda items, and hopefully I can make some things clearer and give some information not only to the board but to the community as we go through this. So number one, I want to start off on here's some happenings that we're going to go off. I'm going to start off on wrapping up summer school. I'll talk about that a little bit. Turned out really well. I think we had a good turnout for summer school. I'll share some of those numbers with the board. Tonight I want to propose our school resource officer proposed plan. We'll talk about the sale of Southeast Elementary School, moving forward with a construction manager at risk for Marshall Public Schools, and our construction projects that we have coming up, and then selection of investing management services. And then also, after I'm done, Raymond James, Dr. Reich, and Dr. Markley are here to talk about moving forward with our COPs and going to market with those. So I'll let them discuss all that. All right, so wrapping up summer school. We held summer school from May 23rd to June 23rd. We had a really great turnout. So K through 5, we had 509 students. 6 through 8 dropped off a little bit, 183 students. And then our high school, we had 9 through 12, about 172 students. And our high school, that was more for a credit recovery catch-up option. So those kids did very well sticking through that. What we did the Summer's Journey program this year. In the mornings, K through 8 came in and they worked on a lot of the core academics. And then in the afternoon, they did a lot of STEM curriculum, did different projects. I was over there quite a bit. I think they were having quite a bit of fun. So this chart right here kind of gives a little bit of the academic impact that happened during summer school. And I'm just going to briefly cover this. They did a pre-test and a post-test with the core curriculum through grades 3 through 8. And overall, we had a 12.7% increase in proficiency overall within math and reading. Math specifically, according to the pre-test, post-test, was 15.1% increase, and the reading was a 10.29% increase. So it turned out really well. It kind of helped that summer slide for kids, getting kids going through, staying in school, keeping those skills. I was over there the last day of school. We had a lot of tears. A lot of kids did not want to leave. So I think they really did have a good time. We had some bumps in the start of it, but worked through those and ended up really good. We also have sent out some surveys to our teachers that did summer school to see what we can do better next year, and just different things. So we'll put those together and come back to the board with those at some point. Okay. No, does anybody have any questions on summer school?
Is this going to be the end of the data collection on this and the analysis of student performance? I know this is probably a question better directed to Laura, but I thought I would.
So I don't
ask.
completely know the answer to that. I'm
That's
not going to
fair.
say that. I would have to talk to Laura.
Well, can you tell me about buildings, Mr.
Right. No, and that's fine. I would have to talk to her and see what other data they're collecting. So,
Sounds
and
good.
I don't quite know exactly everything that went out in the survey, so
Fair enough.
that we can bring back.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Okay. So now on to the next thing. I want to talk about school resource officers for just a second. Currently, our district has 2 school resource officers. One is stationed at the high school and one is stationed at Beaker Middle School. And the one at the high school, they kind of share duties with the other buildings. So what I'm proposing, and I'll get to come a little bit more of the details in the second slide, I'm proposing that we add a part-time third SRO for the district. So what we would do is our SRO 1 would be at the high school over the Career Center, our new PN building, and the alternative school on that campus. Our SRO 2 would still be stationed at Beaker, and they would be over Northwest, Benton, and Eastwood. And then hiring a part-time would split between Spainhauer and the Butterfield campus. Now, of course, when the part-time is not here, those other 2, if there was an emergency or anything, just like it is now, would come. The reason for doing this, I see, the SRO and the safety aspect. It's very important to us, and I believe the more help we can get right now, the better. So it'd give us some more support at all locations throughout the day, just adding a part-time FTE, including our district staff training. It's hard for 2 guys to get through all that. Doing this now, after 2 years, once we get the 3 through 5 building, we would, as a board, and administration would have to reevaluate that, and where our SROs are at, condensing buildings. So we would do that in 2 years. The estimated salary would be at $25,000. That's including the benefits, just right around there for a part-time FTE. And the thing that we figured out that we like about this is this would not cost any district dollars. We would use the safety and security grant that we were given, so we would use that money to pay that salary. So we had a $200,000 safety and security grant, so we can use that for the SRO salary. So that is one thing we'll propose when we get to the agenda tonight. Can I ask or does anybody have any questions on that right now?
How long is that $200,000 good for?
They're basically till it's spent, Harry.
And how much have we spent already?
Like
Or are we
on the Z-Locks is the only thing we have
Okay, so
spent
we are
on
keeping
it.
a separate running on that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, we may, and I don't have the final bills, I put out some estimates, this is a whole nother subject, but through some secure door locks and some
Yeah.
controlled access that will come out of that money, but I don't have all those figures back yet.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Next step. We've been talking about this for quite a while now. The sale of Southeast Elementary School. Our summer cruise, when school was over, our teachers got their stuff out and everything else packed up, and our summer crew has done an amazing job this summer getting everything moved. So Everything is pretty much, I would say 99.9% out of Southeast Elementary School and is ready for sale. So we put this out, and we have received 3 bids on Southeast Elementary School for the purchase of Southeast Elementary School. Those 3 bids, one was from the realtors, and I appreciate the realtors' work on this, on all of them. Simply Realty put a bid in, and their client was Best Life Properties, and they put a proposal in, and I believe the board has all that information on each of the proposals. And so they basically will be turned into a living space, and they were offering, their original offer was of $60,000, and they put it to increase the lowest offer by $5,000 up to $150,000. So that would make their bid $67,950. Our second bid was Tower Realty. They also proposed doing a living space, and they bid $50,000. Our third bid, I believe, was with Mr. Ashford, the SRG Group. They also bid a living space at Bent Center, and it was $62,950. So those are basically, in a nutshell, the bids and the purposes we got back, and all that information and their proposals were in your board packet. So tonight, what you will vote on, we are not voting on the contract. You are voting on the buyer and the price tonight. And then when we vote on that and have that set, then we will send that information off to our attorneys. They will do the real estate contract, and then our attorneys will do that, and then come back to the board next month for your approval on that contract. So you will see it one more time.
I just want to clarify, the $5,000 was over the highest bid received, not the lowest. When he said that,
Sorry,
he
the
said lowest.
highest bid,
And so I
correct.
just want to make sure everybody understands that it was the highest, not the lowest, that they would be paying $5,000 of excess to.
Sorry about that.
You're
Yes, the
fine.
highest bid. And we also had a committee set up that came in, and we looked at all the proposals and went through it. And then so tonight, we will recommend that we sell Southeast Properties, or Southeast Elementary School with Simply Realty to Best Life Properties for that $67,950. Is there any questions on that one? All right. Okay. Next up, this will be also on our agenda tonight, construction manager at risk selection. This has been a great process that we went through. We had a committee set up. I believe Mrs. Green, Harry was on there, Mr. Jakes, you were on there, Matt helped out a little bit. So we worked with Insight Design to send these out when it was a 2-step RFP process to hire for the district and moving into our construction. We had 4 companies, 4 RFPs submit bids back. Little Dixie out of Columbia, J.E. Dunn out of Kansas City, Naples out of Columbia, and Excel out of Overland Park. The process, we used a grading process by just looking at some of their information, how many schools they've done before, just their experience. And then we also called all 4 back for an interview process. So the committee went through an interview process with all 4 organizations. And then the third thing we did is we looked at, they gave us proposals on their funding. And that's really, really small there, but it is in your board packet. So in this too, with everything put together and then the committee voting, I'm going to recommend Nabholz Construction out of Columbia tonight to be our construction manager at risk. And actually Mitchell, he's sitting in the front row here, came tonight to, if you did have any questions when we get to that point, or just introduce himself. So it was a good process.
Yeah, it really was.
I think we
I learned a lot.
all learned a lot and feel confident with that selection. So that I'll recommend. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next couple things before we get to Raymond James here. Also on the board agenda tonight is we would like as a district to select a investing management service. And I kind of want to explain not only to the board, for the community, why we are doing that, what's the purpose and what's the process of going this route. So what's going to happen here in the next couple months is Raymond James, and they're going to talk to you about going out and selling their COPs and raising capital for us for our construction project. And when they do that, we are going to get, whatever we're looking $35 to $40 million, okay? And they're going to put it in a bank account. Well, what we can do as a district is instead of just letting that money sit in a bank account and just drawing it down for our construction bills, is we can take that money and we can send it out to an investment firm and hopefully, make interest and a profit on that. And its projection with the amount of money, we can be between $1 million and $2 million right now. Now, that's all depending on market and everything, how things go, but that's definitely a possibility. So we would select one of these companies, and they would go out and invest this money that we have raised through our COPs. So why don't we do that ourselves? There's a lot of things that schools and myself that we are not certified for. Arbitrage liability. So arbitrage liability is what the interest, so we're going to make some money off the interest. And arbitrage, the IRS still, even though we are tax exempt, the IRS is still going to say, no, we still want a cut of that money. Okay, so it's not just completely tax-free what we raise, even though we're a tax-free entity. So there's arbitrage liability, and what this company will help us do is keep track of that and figure out at the end of the deal how much money we're going to owe to the IRS. And that's very important because we do not want to get to the end of our time frame and then have paid all of our bills and have $0 in the bank, and then all of a sudden the IRS sends us a $200,000 bill. So they will help us, the investment firm will help us keep track of that, set that money aside, see what that penalty will be to the IRS, and then keep that back so we can be able to pay that at the end. The other thing, one more thing is a draw schedule. So we will set up, our investment firm will work with not only Raymond James, but Insight Design and our construction manager team to develop a draw schedule. And that's when we're going to pull money out of our investments to be able to pay the construction bills, whether it's Insight, whether it's Nabholz, whoever. So we're going to have a draw schedule throughout this whole process. And it's important, number one, or when we look at this, keeping those funds liquid. So when we look at the draw schedule, we want to make sure we have enough liquid funds so we do not screw up any of the investments, because we want to make sure all the investments that they are doing, whether it's mutual funds or U.S. Treasuries or whatever, that they come to full term. Because if we have to pull that money out before full term, then we may be losing money on our investments, and we definitely don't want to do that. So keeping the funds liquid, and even with the draw schedule, you just never know. There could be an emergency. Maybe we had an emergency, need to pull $200,000 out of that account. Well, we don't want to go sell any funds early to do that. And so the investment company will help us and work with us and work with all the entities and to be able to make sure this runs fairly smoothly. So, and then we can get the full return on our investment. So what we had, that's kind of the reason that we're doing this. We had 2 firms submit an RFP, and we also went through an interview process with a committee. The 2 firms that submitted was MOSIP and then MOCAT. And both of those firms have worked with Missouri schools before, or several Missouri schools actually. MOCAT is actually with a company called PMA, and MOSIP is with, what did I do with it?
PFM?
Yes, PFM, thank you. Yep, that is correct. So with those, so both companies, very comparable. I mean, they really are. Worked with Missouri schools, they're both comparable in returns. They're both going to go out to the U.S. Treasuries in a lot of the same markets. And also they're comparable in terms of pricing. Now, we'll never actually write either one of these companies a check for doing that. They're just going to take some of the base points off their investments when they do that. So tonight, and you guys can ask questions, I'll answer them the best I can. Jack, Mr. Lentz was actually there in that committee. The committee felt that MOCAT was a better fit for the district. Just thought that the customer service, some of the experience that they could help Marshall schools with at this point was going to help us out. So I'll be recommending MOCAT for our investing management service when we get to that point. Does anybody have any questions on that? Did I speak too long?
Nope.
No, sir.
Good job.
That is all I have tonight before we get to Raymond James and then the agenda, and then we'll get to the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on.
Was there a substantial difference between MOSIP and MOCAT in terms of the fee that they would be?
It's not substantial, it's base points. So one was, and it depends where you invest it, where they invest it, okay? And so that's something we have to get to. So MOSIP has what's called, and I'm trying not to misquote anything, because I don't have all the numbers in front of me. But MOSIP has like a MOSIP fund,
Okay.
and I'm not 100% sure what that fee was.
Did you make that?
And now, if they go out to the market, they will
Did you make
take
that?
base points off of it, 0.08. And then MOCAT, the same way, they will go out to the market, and I think it was like 0.10, 0.5, but it depends on what the percentage of the investments you're getting back on how much they're going to.
So either way, it's just a matter of they get paid when we get paid, essentially, right? And how well they're
Exactly,
managing our investment.
exactly.
So the better they do, and either way,
That is correct.
it's going to be the same kind of principle. So as long as
Yes.
we're not talking about like handfuls of points. as
No,
well,
no,
right?
no, there is not
We're
handfuls.
talking about decimal 0.000s.
Okay, we're not
Yes.
talking about highway robbery. Okay, great,
No,
thank you.
no, no.
And-
You're not
and-
talking like 20% or, no.
Just need to be able to sleep at night.
Yep,
Thank you. Yeah.
yep.
And Jack did hand deliver this information to all the banks in town to see if there was any local banks that wanted to take this on, and they did not want to at this time,
It's a
just in
lot.
case anyone was
It-
curious.
it-
It's a lot of
it's a
money, it's a
lot.
lot of moving parts. The arbitrage is something else they would have to
Yeah.
track and keep track of,
And
so.
I think there's certain certifications that people
Right.
need to work with the municipalities in this,
Big
and so.
difference.
Jack did a lot of work on this. I talked with him about it, did a lot of work
That's why I
on
thought
this.
he'd be a great treasurer.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Okay,
I think you survived, Mr. Rankin. Thank you, sir.
thank you. I'm gonna hand it over.
Good.
Nice job. I like your jacket as well. Good evening.
Good evening.
Is this on?
No,
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I think.
Just nice and close.
Yep. Good evening. So Mike Reich with Raymond James. Good to see you all again, and glad to be here. Dr. Markley is handing out the presentation tonight. You'll be glad to know that I'm not going through that presentation page by page. I'm going to summarize, but I wanted you guys to have the updated plan so that you have it as you walk away tonight, tomorrow, into next week. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to David and Caleb, but also we'll be there to support them in answering you. So first, congratulations. I think I was hoping that this would pass for obvious reasons, but what a wonderful thing, and what great community support you got, and it didn't come without a lot of sweat equity on your behalf. And I want to congratulate specifically David and Caleb. I know they put a lot of time, hard work, and dedication, and what a great thing for this community and your kids. So we're just really thrilled to be a part of it. So with that, we have, we presented a plan of finance way back, I think in January-ish, and some things have changed since then. I can't say anything really has changed for the worse, generally speaking, and there's still a lot of things that could change between now and a final resolution. But here's where we are today. So we landed on of your 99-cent tax levy increase, 83 cents going to the capital project, the COP issuance, and then 16 cents would go to operating. And just if you're curious, 16 cents generates about $345,000 annually in operating revenue. So the 83 cents generates estimated $35 million for your project fund. And so that's where the project fund is today. It's a 25-year financing plan. It's actually 26 years, but 25 renewals, which is allowed by statute. And we're estimating, based on current market, the true interest cost being right about 4.49%. Again, this number is just to update you where we are today. We have seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've seen the 10-year treasuries go up about 30 basis points. Sometimes municipal bonds follow treasuries. They don't always, and they haven't actually recently. So municipal bonds have not. We have seen a slight uptick, but not like we've seen with treasuries. My message on interest rates right now today, first and foremost, I can't control them. And that's just the way it is. I wish I could. I would be on Wall Street probably. But more importantly, interest rate, this is still a very favorable lending environment in terms of interest costs for issuers. So in fact, if you look at interest rates since 1990, interest rates have been higher than they are now approximately 80% of the time. So this is a favorable market to be borrowing in. So we did some things here based on a $35 million project fund. If you'll go flip to page 7. And we haven't landed on anything specifically, but one of the things that we do with these longer term financings is we have call dates, dates in the future where you can redeem if interest rates drop. It's kind of like a safety valve for the district. If interest rates drop, you can redeem those bonds and then reissue at a lower rate, at the current rate. And so we did a little analysis here of what it looks like to put a 5-year call on it, a 7-year call, and a 10-year call. 10-year call, Dr. Markley and I would say are pretty standard. 10-year call allows you to keep your interest costs low, but also gives you an opportunity to leverage that redemption date into the future. And so as of right now, the 10-year call seems most favorable, again, with the goal of maximizing your project fund, but keeping your interest costs low, while still giving you the ability to redeem those bonds in the future if interest rates do drop. And so that's just something that we do to analyze to see what your best option is. Another thing that we will be doing in the days ahead is we will be getting some bids from bond insurance companies. There's companies that will provide insurance for you that will help you raise your rating, that will lower your interest cost. And we do the analysis, and if it makes financial sense, then we'll recommend that to you. Sometimes they'll come. It might make financial sense, but it might encumber some of your balances or things like that. So we'll make sure that you're aware of all of the inner workings there. But it is something that we will analyze. Our goal again, have your lowest possible interest cost and maximize your project fund. And so where this is heading next, with all that detail behind us, we need to finalize budgets in the coming days. I know we know that we can do $35 million on the project that IDS is designing. You also have the project through Navitas, the energy project, and we don't have budget numbers there. We don't know how much energy cost savings there will be. In theory and in a perfect world, the energy savings will pay for the debt service on the Navitas work, but we need those numbers before we move forward. Ideally, all of this can happen in the same plan of finance, which will lower your cost of issuance. It could be done in 2 separate issuances, but you would be paying for cost of issuance twice. So it's our goal to try to get those together if it's possible. And then we'll be offering for sale your certificates of participation. And I believe just a little bit further down on the agenda, you have the resolution that was drafted, basically just a legal document that gives us the ability to offer your COPs for sale. And that was drafted by Gilmore and Bell. And so, the only thing that is left to do for tonight is to approve that resolution. We will go forward. We will sell your COPs, and then we'll come back with a final resolution. We have on our timeline that would happen on your 8/8 board meeting. We are razor thin to make that 8/8 timeline, so this may in fact be later in August at a special meeting if that's possible, or even in the September regular meeting. So it's looking like, we don't want to rule out 8/8 as a possibility, but it's looking like it's probably going to be a little bit later. And so with that, I think I've covered most of the details I intended to. Dr. Markley, anything to add?
Any questions you might have for us?
Absolutely.
Do you know what so Gilmore and Bell drafted the go-to-market resolution?
Yes.
I'm looking at right here, right? And we put it through our legal as well?
No, Gilmore and Bell is basically working for us also.
Because I saw that language here
Yes.
too, but we didn't, did we select them? Did we vote on that?
It was through, when
Through
we
you
hired
guys.
Raymond James, we did at some point, we hired Gilmore and Bell, I believe.
Well, I mean, I know about A, but I'm asking about B.
And they are, and help me out here, Dr. Ike, but they are one of the 2 or 3 bonding and COP lawyers in
Reading my
the
mind,
state of
yeah.
Missouri.
Tell me about these guys
And that's what they do. They're a group of lawyers, and then so they make sure all this language is right. And Dr. Markley,
When you went to voters with your ballot language, that's when you hired, they drafted your ballot language.
And they are, as David said, they do, the lion's share of the work in the state probably isn't a strong enough word. They're a very good firm, and you want to make sure that you have a good firm to make sure that, that everything is in order in terms
Hence
of.
my questions, yeah.
The tax.
and that's what they do. I mean, that's,
Great.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We used them when I was sitting in that chair for years.
So they've been doing this for a day or two, right? Yeah, I know you just retired yesterday, but
It seemed like
I know. Okay, cool. That was really my primary question. I didn't know which attorneys I should be trusting and why. But now I know,
I understand.
so I'm cool.
Well, in this context, Gilmore and Bell.
Are the ones.
Generally, I would say don't trust any of them, but I think you're okay with this group.
Wonderful, okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, they're spending a lot of money.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. It brings us down to new business, of which there is a lot and has been kind of explained to us already. So, of course, the first thing on is to approve the budget amendments. We talked about this back last meeting because our meeting falls in the second week of the month. There are bills that are paid after that time. And of course, we were going to have to close out the fiscal year for last year. So this is just to the June bills totaling and to clear out and start our July fiscal year budget. So we need to approve the budget amendments that were given to us in those numbers. So
Is there any other specific language around that
no, we just need a motion to approve the budget amendments.
as included in the packets?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there additional questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Next is to look at the creation of another halftime SRO within our district. Mr. Rinke explained that would be coming out of our, I believe it was a $200,000 grant that we received for school safety, security, and that we would be paying for that position for the next 2 years out of that grant. And then, as he explained, we'd be looking at that as we group buildings and change our lives a little bit in a couple of years, what our needs are at those times and moving forward at that time, so.
I move we create a part-time
Second.
school resource officer.
Yeah, here, I got the motion, I have a second.
I was gonna say, Amy was so ready for that. She-
Sorry, I was moving my mic, moving it in.
So, it's been properly moved and seconded. There seems to be no discussion or questions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Next, we need to approve the surplus for the July auction. This will be the second of what we think will be 3 auctions of things that we have within district. The first was primarily a liquidation of materials that were left over from Butterfield and a few other things that we were in possession of. These are things now that are left over from that auction, and also other things within the district that we have found are unnecessary at this time. And we need to approve those as a board for them to be put out for an auction or a surplus auction. And then we will have to ratify that, of course, again after it occurs.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Next, we are going to approve the sale terms of the Southeast School. This is pending, of course, contract language to be drawn up by our legal team for the actual true sale, but this is price and to end the negotiations as they were submitted, or the bids that were submitted, to approve the bids that were submitted, and to approve a buyer.
I move we accept the bid from Best Simply Realty 67950.
Second.
But this isn't this isn't point 4 enclosed?
What?
We're not doing any of this enclosed?
Not the,
You'll
no.
get the contract
We're not
back.
selling
The
it.
contract will be, and we'll approve the contract.
We're not selling it, we're just sending the contract out to bid. We've approved it.
So apparently there is some or some motion language that Mr. Rinke's just presented me for this one. So the board, that is not the correct one. All right, yeah, select the offer from Best Life Properties for the purchase of Southeast Elementary at a purchase price, as Harry said, of $67,950, based on the offer's escalation addendum, and to authorize administration to negotiate an acceptable purchase agreement with Best Life Properties that will be brought back to the board for approval at a later date.
That's what Harry said.
That's what I said.
I second.
That's what the committee recommended.
That was, I believe, what Harry said, but I just want to make sure we were good with the legalese as we went down.
Harry did not have it in front of him, he couldn't do it from memory.
My only point of conversation about it, I wasn't involved in the committee, but from what I could see in the proposals, there was an element for one of them to, and stop me if this is something for later, right? But that there was something for historical preservation. And I think that that's something valuable that Marshallites would appreciate. So perhaps going forward, that may be something to consider. I know there were a few of us who hated to see the old buildings go. And that was, so I appreciated the nod toward trying to recognize the historical nature of these buildings and trying to get that formalized.
All 3 of them talked about keeping the structure as,
The structure is different from getting it recognized as a historical monument or a historical building.
as near as possible.
And that's fine. And I really do mean the formal project, which is a bit of an undertaking. And I can understand why the committee would say it might be too much to bite off. I think there are other buildings in the community that might have an easier go of that than Southeast, which has been built on to. But I do also think that it's valuable, and that if there are buildings that we have that we divest ourselves of that could be historical monuments or landmarks of some sort, that it might be a nod to the Marshallites who cared about that sort of historical preservation. So that's all the 2 cents I wanted to add in. But I do understand why the committee wanted to do what it did, and I'll support what the committee wanted to do.
And I will be abstaining from this voting process and have been through the sales of this process as well, so. We have a motion on the floor that has been moved and seconded, I believe.
Call question.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? And I will be abstaining. Next, we're looking at the approval for construction manager at risk. Excuse me, Mitchell, for not noticing. I said I know this gentleman from somewhere, but it couldn't come to my head. So,
I recognize
when
him.
when we had the construction manager at risk meeting, we did meet about 25 good people that day. So, but I did recognize your face. So, of course, during that committee process, Mr. Rinke has laid that out, how that went on, our initial responses to the RFP that we received, and then the interview process where everyone came down and answered our questions and gave us more detailed presentations. So through the process of numbers as well as information and backgrounds, histories, and reference checks, and every other thing that we could think of doing to make sure we were investing and looking the right way with our building team, we did come down to select and recommend, as he said, Nabholz as a company at that point. So we just need to approve the construction manager at risk through vote officially now.
I move we accept Nabholz as the construction manager at risk.
Second.
It's been moved.
For the folks who were participating in that, and this may be something where you end up chiming in, we'll see. So I noted that there was a dash where there were fees for others. J.E. Dunn had like a $68,000 just kind of like a show up fee, right? And your firm does not. Is there any trade-off with availability and service and being there when we make a phone call or whatever?
I don't,
I was just going to say, we did not get anything like that. We actually went back and sent Mr. Rinke back and said, we want to double check these numbers.
Yeah,
Their
what's up with
number
that
was,
zero? Yeah.
their number was lower in that area. Of course, the overall, I forget, it's the percentage, it's the company percentage number that it comes down to roughly there. But they said they wanted to look and invest with us in our community and kind of start a relationship with us as a district. And so that's why they were holding back on that number. And that, of course, gave us a less payment that we'd be paying out to them as the construction manager at risk. So it brought them in as the lowest person as well, but not by reputation or by what they're willing to offer us. There are some things that they're going to be offering that are going to be bringing our students on board to come and see some of the construction while they're out.
That was a real
And
good
some
thing.
other things that were real neat engagement teams. There will be some marketing that is pushed out the community as far as during the construction process, other dashboards that we'll be able to watch in live time and see, as well as members of the board and people in the district that need to kind of see where we are, punch list, progressions, what we're planning on doing in the next few weeks. So a lot of things that will have came very far up to date as far as building and construction, and they're using technology as well as wanted to engage us as a community. So
Cool.
They made an outstanding presentation. One of the things that really impressed me right off was their long-range goals. They're not just looking at this building, they were looking for the future of our whole district. Even talking about the middle, I think they called it a junior high, we call it a middle school. They even had that plotted out on their presentation where they're going to build this one, where we could go with the next one. In other words, they weren't just looking to come in and put a building up, at least what they said. They said they really wanted to invest in where we're going to go here in Marshall.
Hey, as long as they'll move at our pace.
Harry also, as well as the rest of us, were very concerned about trying to do some subcontracting with our local
Yes.
businesses and keeping money within our community as well. And they were into making those connections, have been around town. It was obvious they did homework on our town, had some really good pre-drawings for us, and not pre-architectural drawings, but just site management type of things, of
Yeah.
how they were going to kind of work within us, knew that they're going to be building during our school year, what that was going to look like, and those kind of things.
You start down and it becomes a fait accompli, right? Let me not be
I can let you know that voice was Harry every single time somebody asked a question. He was like, so can my guys pull wire? Can we bring some guys in the community to do this, you know? So making sure that those kind of things happen, so.
They answered all of my questions.
This is, yeah.
Mitchell, is there
this is
anything
really
you want to
awesome.
add before we go on, or am I making you sound good enough you're going to stay out of that?
I'll let you.
So, you do the pre-construction numbers, is that correct, from what I remember?
Yeah, I think that was a great way to say it, where
Uh-huh.
we felt like either way, it's an overhead cost to us, we
Mhm.
provide that service, so that's why you saw it was in the next number below.
Mhm.
And what that does for you is if something happened, then we'd be willing to offer that for free as part of that.
Mhm.
So that's why we chose a $0 amount for that.
Cool.
But it was a defined scope that we had to acknowledge, so.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So we've gone through the discussion, it's been moved and seconded already, so all those in favor of Nabholz for our construction manager at Risk Company, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Next, I'm going to move down to approval of the market resolution. That does take a certain language as well, or just saying that it is going to be the market resolution as presented by Raymond James and of course vetted by the legal company as was presented to you in your packet, so. And this is just an ability to go to market, and the kind of the first step we will also be approving, as he said, in the next month at a regular or special meeting, the rest of this. So moved.
Second, there's no special language on this, we're just,
No, I'm one ahead. The MOCAT has a little special
I was gonna
language
say,
with it.
yeah, we're doing just the market resolution right now. right?
Yes, just the market resolution. So
Get
it's been
going.
moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Next, we will be looking at G, motion to approve MOCAT resolution and instrument of adoption. And that, of course, 2 pages back, you'll see just the motion needs to say to approve MOCAT as an investment firm through their resolution and their instrument of adoption.
So it should read, I move to approve MOCAT as our investment firm and their instrument of adoption
Through their resolution and instrument of adoption.
through their resolution.
I'll second whatever she said.
I'm still writing it down here.
It's 2 pages back. She showed me that they actually have, I did not realize that, but Ms. Renault has given us some adoptions to that. We've got a little bit more paper back
I
there.
don't.
Or
I
it looks
do
like she
not.
may be short of paper because there's no more blue
I
paper.
do not.
Oh, I just get those to,
I didn't get
It would be useful.
We
to
didn't
have
get
that
it. You're the one
language.
that's got it.
well, since I don't make most of the motions, I'll say we might need a few more copies in the
Yeah, might need
future,
more
so.
Move to approve MOCAT as our investment firm
Through their resolution and through their instrument of adoption. Yes, ma'am.
adoption, yes.
And it is moved. Harry, are you still seconding?
I
that?
still second it.
All right,
I
it's been
trust
moved
Aaron
and
all the way.
seconded, and we will move on. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for correcting me, Ms. Renault. Any opposed or abstaining? All right. Next, I will move to adjourn to closed session
So
for
move.
hiring, firing, disciplining, terminating, individually identifiable personnel records. And I will start
Wait,
down.
whoa. We've also got real estate on here, so, on the actual agenda. So we gotta also add in section 610.021. Yeah. It's on the motion, no, I don't.
It's on the motion that I'm not going to.
motion.
He's got, it's not on the motion for the people who actually have to move. So.
It is not on my motion as
Let's make sure we
well.
got our Ts dotted and Is crossed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right
Got
here.
hiring and firing, check.
I have the language.
We got personnel records, looks like
That's the
it.
language she's talking
We got,
about. We got it.
and we got lease, purchase, or sale of real estate.
So as we're saying, hiring, firing, disciplining, individually identified personnel records, and real estate. Harry?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Aaron?
Uh-huh.
Brad?
Aye.
Matt? Aye. Thank you, we're adjourned.